Today is February the 22nd. Today we have a travelogue. In the passage that we're going to read today, Acts 20, 1 through 16, I'm going to let Emily read it. There is not much from this that we can really look back at the Old Testament to. Let's read Acts 20, 1 through 16.
Acts 20, verses 1 through 16, New Revised Standard Edition. After the uproar had ceased, Paul sent for the disciples, and after encouraging them and saying farewell, he left for Macedonia. When he had gone through those regions and had given them much encouragement, he came to Greece, where he stayed for 3 months. He was about to set sail for Syria when a plot was made against him by the Jews, so he decided to return through Macedonia. He was accompanied by Sopater, son of Pures, from Berea, by Aristarchus and Secundus from Thessalonica, by Gaius from Derbe, and by Timothy, as well as Tychicus, by Trophimus from Asia. They went ahead and were waiting for us in Troas, but we sailed from Philippi after the day of unleavened bread, and in 5 days we joined them in Troas, where we stayed for 7 days. On the first day of the week, when we met to break bread, Paul was holding a discussion with them. Since he had intended to leave the next day, he continued speaking until midnight. There were many lamps in the room upstairs where we were meeting. A young man named Eutychus, who was sitting in the window, began to sink off into a deep sleep while Paul talked still longer. Overcome by sleep, he fell onto the ground 3 floors below and was picked up dead. But when Paul went down and, bending over him, took him in his arms and said, "Do not be alarmed, for his life is in him." Then Paul went upstairs, and after he had broken bread and eaten, he continued to converse with them until dawn. Then he left. Meanwhile, they had taken the boy away alive and were not a little comforted. We went ahead to the ship and set sail for Assos, intending to take Paul on board there, for he had made this arrangement, intending to go by land himself. When he met us in Assos, we took him on board and went to Mytilene. We sailed from there, and on the following day we arrived opposite Chios. The next day we touched at Samos, and the day after that we came to Miletus. For Paul had decided to sail past Ephesus, so that he might not have to spend time in Asia. He was eager to be in Jerusalem, if possible, on the day of Pentecost.
So there in that passage, we see Paul spends 3 months in Greece. Again, when he begins to leave to go back to Jerusalem, Jews plot against him. So instead of going directly, he goes back through Macedonia. Luke names 9 men who are on the team now. There is an interesting thing that happens. They arrive in Troas, the ancient city of Troy. There, Paul begins to speak to the church leaders. He goes till midnight. Luke mentions the lamps in the room. Maybe it was warm. Maybe the lamps were consuming all the oxygen in the room. But Eutychus fell asleep. He was in a window, probably trying to get more air, fell asleep and fell 3 stories. He died. Paul went down, picked him up, and said his life is still in him. Paul brought him back to light, or rather, the Lord did. Then Paul moves on and begins to travel down the western coast of Asia Minor until he arrives at Miletus. Tomorrow we'll read that story. What do we do about this today? Just spend time in prayer. Thank the Lord for Paul's ministry. Eventually, it reached you. Scripture reading from the New Revised Standard Version by Emily Herrera. If you have a question, drop it in the comments section below.